Matt Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Always a pleasure. We've got him back, Gareth A. Davies. Gareth, how's things? Have we healed up? Are we all better?
All better, thank you. Yeah, after my little cycling accident, head trauma, I just 10 days off and rocking and raring to go.
Brilliant stuff. Look, I think there's only one place to start. I think we have to start with Jaron Boots Ennis. Terrific performance of David Avanesian. I think managed to get him out of there quicker than Crawford, and there's a lot of talk now about that fight potentially brewing. Let's start there. Jaron's had a homecoming. I think 15,000 people turned up for it as well. Good numbers for his first fight under Matchroom on DAZN. What do you make of it? We've got a potential megastar sort of brewing there.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? How he's kind of weirdly gone under the radar for so long. What is it? 32 fights, 29 knockouts now.
Yeah.
Count the David Avanesian victory on Saturday night. Look, in comparison to Terence Crawford, I think it's very similar. I mean, it's a fight that he and Terence Crawford was talked about for a long time. Then it just went on the back burner in a weird way because the Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight took over. I fear for Boots Ennis that with Terence Crawford busy with Israel Madrimov, and then the fight being lined up with Saul Canelo Alvarez, that he's going to be frozen out till next year, and he's going to get his biggest fights. I mean, you look at welterweight. You know, his biggest fight at welterweight is definitely Terence Crawford. It's a super fight. But I think, you know, Mario Barrios, that's the only other guy there, really. I think he's going to have to go up to light middleweight to super welterweight to have his biggest fights. I think that's where he's going to have to face Crawford eventually, and I think that's where he's going to have to chase the likes of Errol Spence, which is another good fight for him. Other than that, I know that obviously Lewis Crocker's emerging in the WBA. Eddie could line him up with him. I think what is good for Boots Ennis is that he's in a really good place. The fact that he's under Matchroom and he's under Eddie Hearn, because that will open doors to a quicker assault, if you like, on becoming more well known. And Eddie will sell him, and he already started that process with this fight. So I'm pleased for him. But the shock for me is that Boots Ennis has been under the radar for so long in lots of ways.
Yeah, I concur with that. I think it's the right time for him to have joined Matchroom in terms of what they're doing. The machine out there that they're constantly growing in the American market as well. They've been doing things sort of the last few years, but they've really sort of got to grips with it, I would say, more recently, especially with him coming on board. I was looking, I think there has been, I know we said there about what would he do in terms of, obviously there's an Errol Spence, he might have to move up. I think there is talks of potentially, if that Canelo Crawford fight doesn't happen, of Boots and Crawford fighting. I know Eddie said sort of, look, His Excellency, by all means, you know, would love that fight as well. So if they can't get Crawford Canelo, Crawford Boots is one hell of a fight to put. I think Eddie said that's the best fight in boxing. Not sure I agree.
It's one of the big fights. There's no doubt about that. It's not the biggest fight in boxing. It's one. They haven't got massive followings.
No.
Then you couldn't sell out you couldn't do a big football stadium in the US. You couldn't do an Arlington, Texas. You couldn't do if they're not. Then they don't have enough followers for that. But or certainly traveling support. I haven't I know for a fact, I can't guarantee that Turkey Al-Sheikh, His Excellency Turkey Al-Sheikh, is after the Crawford Boots Ennis fight. I know that he's really after the Crawford Canelo fight. That's the big fight that he wants to make happen, and they're looking to make that happen kind of early, maybe first third of next year. So, well, let's see first of all what happens against Madrimov. I do think it's an opponent that'll suit him on August the 3rd in Los Angeles, and I think it will depend on that. But I think Boots Ennis needs to get himself to that event. He
Yeah.
needs to make some noise ringside. It needs to create some heat around it, because people, you and I can sit here and talk about it. Eddie Hearn can talk about it on the dais post-fight news conference. But the chattering classes aren't talking about it. And that's the weird thing, that we should have been on about this fight for the last year and a half, or certainly since Crawford beat Errol Spence, because we should have been pushing this fight.
Yeah, 100%. Someone talking about someone who's been making a lot of noise. Obviously, Shakur Stevenson had his final fight with Top Rank. The usual sort of, obviously, the people came out. He received a bit of criticism for the performance. I think it's because people see this kid who's like, he's got an incredible amount of talent, and they almost want to see him just go through the gears a little bit more. And I think maybe as the opponents get better, like when he fought an Oscar Valdez, we saw him dig into the toolbox and really sort of put it on the aggressor. But other fights, I feel like, when he's in that much control, it's just like, I'm just going to win. Do you understand maybe where he does receive some criticism? And obviously, there's talks about him signing with Matchroom. We'll come on to that. Do you get?
Yeah, look. There were pictures of him with Eddie Hearn, weren't there, at an event recently, hinting that I believe he's been given a 15 million 5-fight offer from Top Rank. Stay with Top Rank, I think is the word on the street. I think he should stay with Top Rank, but sometimes fighters change promoters, and it helps them. Yes, I do think he needs to be a bit more exciting, and that's what people are talking about. And that's where Tank Davis has taken over at the moment, and it's a lot of it is optics in boxing, and I think the optics, slightly this toolbox, as you call it. It's if you're a purist and you love boxing, there's nothing wrong with what he does, but he's just not a thrilling fighter who's ending opponents with viral knockouts or knockouts that go viral. He's very comfortable to sit back in the office and completely outbox and out-skill set his opponents. And his skill set is his thing. I still think he against Gervonta Davies is a phenomenal fight. Yeah. He against Ryan Garcia, when he it's another big fight. Stevenson against Vasyl Lomachenko is a great fight as well. There's so many great fights for him. But I do understand the frustration of some of the fans, because we've talked him up for a long time, probably myself for 2.5, 3 years, and called him a guy that could easily head to the top of the pound for pound list. And I think in this modern day and age, people want to see substance, and that substance is vicious knockouts and dominance, and someone being beaten up when they've got them hurt. He's, as you say, his gears will come against more difficult opponents. And that's a very good analogy there, that it did come out against Oscar Valdez, where he was forced to do it, more like the Matador against the Bull. And when the opponent's not at his level, that doesn't force him to do what he can do.
Agree. You mentioned there about Top Rank obviously offering that deal for him to carry on. He's obviously touted himself about, which he should do, by the way, as well, because you never know.
I agree.
Take that perfect offer, and if you don't know until you try anything. You mentioned that you think he should stay with Top Rank from that offer?
Well, it's been a very good career. I mean, it's been a very good career so far. They know the fighter. They built him to this stage. He's a lightweight world champion. I think where he also is in that realm, there's Denis Baranchyk. A fight can be made very easily. Vasyl Lomachenko.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him in a unification now. I know there's talk of Top Rank and Gervonta's people putting that fight together, but listen, it could go lots of different ways for him. There's a Keyshawn Davis fight. There's a William Zepeda fight. Zepeda, I thought, looked very good the other day in his fight
that guy
against Giovanni. Yeah, against Giovanni. He was brilliant against Giovanni. I thought he looked very, very powerful, if anything. I was just looking at, I think Zepeda's unbeaten in 30 odd fights. He's really coming into his own. I think that's a very good fight for him.
Do you think? I know Eddie's talked about maybe his lack of promotion from Top Rank over the years. But you've obviously just brought up a good point of the fights he's been put in. What do you think Matchroom would do differently with him then in comparison to a Top Rank?
Well, they'd bring him over to the UK to start with. They'd build his name here. I think they'd make him. I think they'd make him more prevalent. Giovanni Cabrera, I couldn't remember Cabrera's name. Yeah, but it was a demolition, 4-round demolition. I just think they'd push him out there a little bit more, and you know, Eddie would do his number on him. He'd bring him to the UK, get him to fight a UK fighter. I'm looking at who's around. You know, you throw him in with a Joe Cordina or a Sam Noakes and build a big event. If he wants to go on the road with him, I mean, you know, it doesn't improve it any more than. I mean, there was a time when Joe Cordina and Shakur Stevenson were headed towards each other. Shakur regarded Joe as the best. I think it was super featherweight in the country at the time.
Yeah.
And those two were on the way to meeting. Look, Artem Haratunyan was the number 7 challenger, an Olympic bronze medalist, a decent fighter. Yeah. But again, it's all in the matchmaking with Shakur. And I think, you know, Eddie's got the belief and confidence that he's doing better than everyone else. So he would kind of take him down a different route, put him in with different guys, bring him to the UK. I'd like to see Shakur fight in the UK. I think he's got a lot of fans here.
Yeah.
But, you know, while Top Rank have got, you know, the Prudential Centre or Newark the whole time where he's from, they know they can get a big, you know, 10,000 crowd, and that's not a problem. They know they've got the Las Vegas venues. They're not going to bring him over here, but I perhaps think they should bring him over here. He's a great fighter. That's what I think. The bottom line is, he's one of the. For me, he's top 10 pound for pound already.
Yeah,
he belongs in the top 10 pound for pound. He needs that Vasyl Lomachenko fight, or he needs that Devin Haney fight, or he needs that Ryan Garcia fight. And if he had the Tank Davis fight, which I do think will happen next year, that's the super fight. And then they might fight 2 or 3 times.
I think that certain crop, we spoke about it long enough now, that certain crop can just all fight each other.
Yeah.
Like, that'll be, and obviously winners and losers, just keep that conveyor belt rolling and let them all have these mega fights against each other, because that's what we're coming into that era again now where everyone is fighting each other anyway.
I've said it to you before, and I'll say it again. Between 1980 and 1989, Hagler Hearns, Leonard and Duran fought each other 9 times. And we've got Keyshawn Davis, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson. That's just 6. I'm sure I've missed them. We've still got Vasyl Lomachenko around. There's 7 fighters there who are all formidable, who are all almost, apart from Vasyl in their prime, Vasyl in their prime, who could literally, there's trilogies to be made there in some of those. Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis may end up having a trilogy. Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney may end up having a trilogy, even though the first fight is discounted. That's why I was lamenting what happened with Ryan Garcia and Osterine, and the fact he was taken out of the game for a year. Because you put him in with any of those other 6, and it's a massive event. So they you can call them the 7 princes if you like, rather than the 4 kings. But there's so many great fights to be made.
I think from what I'm hearing, there are a number of different sources and outlets, and you see it a lot across the internet in the different forums. Gervonta and obviously Lomachenko. Gervonta's wanted Lomachenko for a long time, so that'll take Shakur out of that equation. But I know Shakur has said, I'll fight Zepeda, which I think is a great matchup because Zepeda is an epic volume puncher, so Shakur will have. But Tank and Loma,
it's a great fight. Yeah.
Tank and Loma, though, if I'm hearing talks about that potentially coming together for the back end of this year. Does that interest you? Obviously, Loma, one of the best like to do it kind of thing, epic talent, and Tank's on this trajectory now where he is, you know, he's becoming that face in America of boxing over there.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Top Rank's plan is to have Tank Davis fight Vasyl Lomachenko and then Shakur, or was their plan to have Shakur Stevenson fight Vasyl Lomachenko? I would have gone I would have gone for bust right now, and I'd have put Shakur in with Vasyl Lomachenko straight away. I may have said it to you a week or two ago. That's the fight I'd have gone for straight away and next. But like you say, Zepeda's a good fight for Shakur as well. Stylistically, it works for him. But you know, the rumor mill is strong for the fact that Gervonta Davies and Lomachenko will be made. Maybe Lomachenko wants that fight because it's a bigger money fight for him as well. So they've all got to meet each other. It's as simple as that.
100%. A couple more from me. Eubank signing with Boxer. Obviously, I know it was sort of last week, but we've not caught up since. Just want to get your thoughts on that. There's the rumor mill that I know Canelo's name's been bandied around. I spoke to Eddie Hearn. He said, "Look, we looked at signing him. He wanted 2 warm-up fights, and then we said then we want to stick him in with Conor Benn. But we I think they only wanted to give him the 1 warm-up fight. He wanted 2." But he's been touted to fight Canelo as well. Like, what do you make of the link up with Sky Sports and Boxer?
Well, it's a brilliant coup for them, for both, really. And I think it's called an association rather than a. I don't know. I think it's probably a dual promotion. It wouldn't surprise me if it's called Eubank Promotions on there somewhere with it as well. He's obviously getting himself cleverly into the mix, back into the mix. I'm disappointed he wasn't fighting Hamza Shiraz, Chris Eubank, but now we know why, because he had this going on in the background. He wanted to be a free agent. You know, he released himself from his deal with the Wasserman. With Wasserman and the Sauerland brothers, Nisa and Kalla. And he's always proven good at negotiating. He's apparently he's impossible to negotiate with, but he's always got a plan. He's got a strategy. You know, I can see Canelo picking him because Canelo works for him as an opponent. Canelo works for him as, you know, Eubank's still a big name here. I still think it's not a difficult fight for Canelo, in my view.
Eddie Hearn said similar. In fact, Eddie Hearn said, well, he went a bit further, quite clearly, but I don't think he'd have said it if he'd have signed him, maybe. But he said he'll get battered, was what he says.
Yeah, he might get battered. It's not an easy fight for Chris Eubank, but it's one that you can see Canelo taking. It kind of makes sense, and you know, he needs to stay busy because I do think Canelo will be facing Crawford. And I'm not sure if it's going to be late this year or early next year, but I know it's in the works, and it is in the works for Saudi.
How is that going to work in terms of the weight? Crawford's just moving up to 154. Canelo's is fighting what he's fighting at. I'm intrigued to see what the meeting point is.
It's going to be open weight, isn't it? I mean, Crawford will end up at 160 probably. And well, Crawford will weigh about 160 and Canelo will be 170. You know,
that's wild. Like the fact that
it is, but it's a wild, wild matchup anyway. It kind of reminds me of the closest really I can think of is like Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler, and look what happened there. There's a lot of people convinced, and I think I'm among them, that Crawford is in for a very tough. He'll never been as he will never have been hit as hard as Canelo hits him.
Yeah,
but he'll be drawn into this efficient, accurate fight, precise, and I think he'll outpoint Canelo. I just think he might have some tough times in there, but I think he's going to outpoint him.
I think it's like you mentioned, we've said it on a number of occasions. It's a great time for boxing. Just finishing this off, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything you're looking forward to in the coming weeks? I know Frank Warren's obviously got a card at the end of this week in Birmingham. I think Dalton Smith's just been announced. Good time for boxing.
Yeah, it's great at the moment. I wish I had my diary in front of me. I've got it all written down. You didn't mention it. We don't have to mention it, but Jake Paul fights Mike Perry this week as well. Yep. It would have been the Mike Tyson.
Are you going to watch that? Are you going to watch that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Of course. What do you think? Obviously, Mike Perry has done his thing in bare knuckle and done it extremely well. Do you give him a chance against Jake Paul?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. definitely. I thought Sky Nicholson was good, by the way, against Diana Vargas, retaining her WBC Women's Featherweight title. I wanted to mention that.
He was dominant.
Yeah, very dominant. I was just looking at, this weekend, Jake Paul and Mike Perry. Amanda Serrano gets to fight, which I'm pleased about. Nathan Heaney and Brad Pauls. The rematch. Yeah, looking forward to that. Chantel Cameron fighting under the Warren Queensberry banner for the first time. Zach Parker against Jack Arnfield. Ezra Taylor, who I've got to know a little bit better recently. I'm looking forward to seeing him fight. He's chasing that fight with Ben Whittaker. Boxing's in a good place. I mean, and we had an incredibly busy 2 or 3 months, and I think the other one that from the weekend is Oscar De La Hoya talking about Virgil Ortiz and Ryan Garcia meeting at some point. Obviously, that's not going to happen for a year, but Virgil Ortiz as well. Keep your eye on him, because he's very special as well. And I think he's going to be doing a lot at some light middle as well. So I'm looking again here. He's so highly ranked.
There's a lot of good fighters in the mix as well, and we're forgetting we're going to see Bivol Beterbiev as well in the coming
in October. Yeah, that's still, it feels like a way away. Yeah, we've got the massive card in September. I think it'll be interesting to see the fallout from the August 3rd card, Los Angeles, the Riyadh season Los Angeles card. It's a brilliant card in terms of the matchups on it. Looking forward to it. It's good. It's in a good, healthy place. There's nothing massively negative descending on boxing at the moment, and a huge cloud over it. It's all action stations. It's all go. Everyone's getting their ducks in a row. It's a shame that football's not coming home this morning. But I think everybody watched that, and it was a bit like, I'll put a boxing analogy on what happened with England and Spain. There's levels, and last night, that halfway through, Spain were just about head on points, and by the end of the game, it was like 116, 112 victory. It was 8 rounds to 4, and they were just a slightly different level.
Agree. I think that's a good analogy. When they got the goal back, I thought this is where the tide may swing, but they need to jump on they need to jump on the opponent now. They didn't.
Yeah, and they didn't. And that's what they've struggled to do the whole time, with the way they play. Listen, I don't follow football really, really closely these days. Years are gone since I was an Arsenal correspondent when Wenger and the great team were there. But there's, when those 2 substitutes came on, Palmer and Watkins, there was suddenly an urgency about the team, and there was a vibrancy and a taking people on. And you win by changing the pattern of the fight, or changing the pattern of the game, that's how you win, when it's really close. And the Spanish players, the very young teenager, and Williams on the left, and
brilliant.
So it's creative, creative skills, and it's just moments of genius that do it. That's why we shouldn't write off people like Shakur Stevenson if they sail through an easy victory, just to put a round on it all. Because if they sail through an easy victory, it's because they've got talent. Never write off talent, because it should be raw and visceral, and there should be knockouts. It's different strokes for different folks, and that's the way we roll, baby.
100%. Gareth, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming back on this morning. Good to see you in good health as well. a bit away. Look, let's catch up next week after this weekend's fight.
Absolutely. We'll get back on the horse. Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Gareth. Thank you.
Cheers, Matt.